The thing that I wanted to get into from the weekend, though, Stugotz, because at the end of last week, and this is an interesting thing to me, what is happening in the fighting sports where you have the tension of the business of it is the worst. The employees in the fighting sports are disposable and they are labor that gets exploited by people making money. But we're at an inflection point where many of these people know that they have their own brands, their own power, and that they can exist as their own pay-per-view forces outside of the sport. Floyd Mayweather taught them that. You've heard me say one of the great, whether he can read or not, and I don't know whether he can read the contracts or not because 50 Cent and others have accused him of being illiterate.
Great businessman.
Well, just pioneer. It's beyond great businessman. It's well beyond that.
Right.
It's a decade, 2 decades ahead of everybody on business and on owning all your own stuff. But what ends up happening, and we'll get to Jake Paul and Tyson in a second. You can play that video now of Tyson outside in New York walking with a cane, Stugotz, because Jake Paul is fighting a 57-year-old fighter they told me is going to be an underdog in this fight, and I can't imagine why or how that would be even walking with a cane because Jake Paul has not fought someone who's an actual boxer like this.
But how happy were you when the New York Post aggregated your take while you were wearing a Willy Wonka costume?
A giant victory for me. It's one of my great. It's one of the great happinesses at this point in my career. It's one of the few things that can stir genuine emotion from me.
Every comment was like, "What the hell is this guy wearing? Why does he look like Willy Wonka?"
For me, it's Joe Mauer.
It is wonderful that I would say publicly. It's not just that I'm wearing a costume while being aggregated. It's the specifics of calling him an idiot while I'm dressed that way. And
like
so
an idiot.
Yes, thank you, Jessica. That's what I was saying. I'm hoping that he responds at some point to the costume and wonders how it is that this idiot, meaning me, can be calling him an idiot.
There is additional pressure after that video came out on Jake Paul. You can't lose to that guy. I mean, you can't lose to a guy limping around with a cane. You can't do it. If I'm Tyson, I keep setting the bar lower and lower.
If he keeps setting the bar lower and lower, at his age, he won't be able to get under the bar. He won't be able to get up from being under the bar. But before we get to that, because I'm not sure if a UFC fight in America has ever sold a stadium out of that size, Jerry Jones's stadium. I know I could do it in Brazil and Japan and in Spain. Maybe some fights in America can, but I don't know if American fights have had a crowd of the size that Jake Paul and Tyson will do. But the thing that I wanted to talk about from the weekend, Stugotz, and it's a slow sports time, and I feel like it slid under the radar and should not have. And the only reason that it slid under the radar is because Anthony Joshua did to Ngannou what Tyson Fury should have done to Ngannou, knocked him out coldly in the second round because one of them is a professional boxer and the other is not. And Anthony Joshua made it look very easy because Anthony Joshua is one of the greatest fighters in the sport and in the heavyweight division. But to me, the great accomplishment of the last year in sports is Ngannou getting out from under his $600,000 paydays, Stugotz, the last one he got at UFC, getting to real freedom and making in 2 fights a lot more than he ever would have made as the heavyweight champion of MMA. And to me, the big surprise was that he lasted 10 rounds with and knocked down Tyson Fury. I can't believe that that's something I saw happen because Jake Paul is a good boxer for someone who's not an actual boxer. Like, this is the space that he occupies where he impresses people because they're like, oh, he can box a little bit. Yeah, he can box a little bit. And he's going to the guy who was the menace at the height of that division. And even though he's 57 years old, do you remember how he fought?
Yeah, of course.
What, but I mean, you remember the style of how he fought.
Yes.
He's going to go right at Jake Paul because stamina is going to be an issue at 57. In a boxing ring, I believe those are the longest 3 minutes anybody can experience.
Has to be a quick knockout for Mike.
Yes, it has to be.
By the way, Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders had a match in AT&T Stadium that had 73,000 people at it in 2021. So...
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean boxing. I meant MMA is what I meant. And Canelo fights in Mexico and elsewhere. When I said Japan and Spain and Brazil, it's because I was talking about I don't know if MMA and I don't know if you can get 70, 80, 90,000 people. How many people does Jerry Jones's stadium hold? Because I don't know. I know what is that, AT&T Stadium? I don't know the names of stadiums and I don't know the sizes of stadiums. I just know that if you're in Texas and you're Jerry Jones, my guess is that you wanted to show everybody how big your ego is.
It holds like over 80,000 people. It's pretty massive.
Yeah, it's like 82,000 people.
Well, no, and then you have like boxing configurations where you have everybody on the floor.
True.
So.
With standing room only, it gets up to 105,000 people if they want it to.
The reason, and of course, I'm inflating the words to try and get aggregated while I'm in a Willy Wonka costume, but the reason that I'm calling Jake Paul an idiot is just because I think he's going to lose the fight. Obviously, as a business move, it's brilliant, and it's not idiotic. It's exactly Stugotz. His star was dissipating because he wasn't on the rise fighting better and better challengers anymore. He had lost, and this particular thing is just the freak show of go ahead and throw somebody out there who's going to fill a stadium for you. And also some of the Showtime stuff that he was doing had lost its luster, had it not? Like hadn't there been claims of like super shitty ratings on the last couple of things that he had done because it was just like he was a YouTube pioneer and now that has slowed considerably even though it's still very strong, and the ascent of Jake Paul as a pay-per-view draw was going to head into the toilet, but this rescues it.
Is this going to be his largest viewed thing because of the fact that it's on Netflix?
And it's Tyson.
I think Tyson.
Because the MMA guys, he was fighting washed-up MMA guys who weren't boxers and didn't have any real punching power. There was no real punching power. That he was physically stronger than all of the people he's fighting against, and he's bigger than all of them. And again, no punching power.
It's the right opponent at the right time for Jake Paul, and sadly, and this is a sad state of affairs for boxing, this is the matchup that gets me most excited. This is a matchup that will get me to my TV only to see if Mike Tyson can still do it.
Okay, so forgive me because he cannot, Stugotz. He fought when he's fighting another fighter. He fought old Roy Jones Jr., and that was just sad.
Right.
But this gets me to where it is that I was headed with the conversation, which is I think Stugotz is more like people around this fight than people who love boxing and love MMA. I believe this shift in the sport to the circus freaks, to Conor McGregor fights Floyd Mayweather, and even though it's no good as a boxing spectacle, I think we've crossed over into just be famous.
Yep.
The way to do it in boxing now is either be in boxing or fighting or MMA is be famous, be loud, be someone who gets our attention with things other than boxing.